Now we move to the next part of Akrura. Akrura is still in his chariot, moving towards Vrindavan, to bring Krishna and Balram back to Mathura, making arrangements, because Kamsa has made arrangements to kill them. So we saw that Akrura is on the way. He is always meditating on these various qualities of the Lord and what is his position, what is Krishna's position. And while meditating, the very short distance between Mathura and Vrindavan, Akrura is taking a long time. Now he started early in the morning and he will reach, we will see in the coming verses, he will reach only during the Sandhya time, no? At the time the sunset. At that time only Akrura will reach Vrindavana and meet them, because he's completely absorbed in the thoughts of Krishna that he doesn't know where he's driving the chariot. He will just let loose, no? And then the chariot will go here and there, the horses will go. And then he will bring it back. He will bring it back like that. In our cases, what we are doing, our mind is going everywhere other than Krishna. Here for him, the mind is going always towards Krishna, that he has to bring it back so that he can travel towards Vrindavan. In our case, what is happening? Our mind is going everywhere other than Krishna, that yato nischalati tanchalam astiram tatastato niyam yaitat atmanyeva vayavashamnaye. We have to bring it back to Krishna. For him, he has to bring it back to the road which is going to Vrindavan. So now we will see what are all the lessons we learned. I have put it in the form of points. So first we go to the verse, one verse, and we see what do we learn from that verse. So the first two verses he says, he goes with a lot of devotion in his heart. And then now we are seeing from the third verse, so how if his heart is filled with devotion means, what are all the qualities he is having which has enabled him to be filled up with so much devotion to the Lord. So that is what we are seeing. So now we will see one verse and then we'll immediately see what we learned from the verse, the point which we learned from here. So in simple terms, we will see. So the first verse is 10:38:3, wherein, Supriya, can you read the translation? Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. She's not there. Okay, anyway, I'll read. So this first verse, he says, Akrura is thinking, what pious deeds have I done? What severe austerities undergone? What worship performed or charity given? So that today I will see Lord Keshava. So this is what he is appreciating. See what I have done to get these things. Okay, can we move to that document where it has got the points? Yes. Yeah. So now the lessons which we learned from the meditations of Akrura. So the first 10:38:3 is the first meditation of Akrura. From this, what do we learn? Now, whenever we go to Vrindavan, this should be our meditation. Whenever Krishna gives us opportunity to go to Vrindavan, have a pilgrim. Now at least the corona has to go down, then only we can move. So if Krishna allows us to go to Vrindavan, this is a meditation we should have. And that is why we should think that it is not only going to the place Vrindavan. Anyway, anytime we approach our devotional service of approaching the deities or approaching Srimad Bhagavatam or approaching our chanting beads, approaching the reading of the book, whatever activities we do, we can develop this mood. And what is that first thing we have to meditate upon? First thing we should do is we should appreciate the rare spiritual privilege which has been conferred on us and the opportunity which has been given to us for engaging us in devotional service, even though we do not deserve any of this. And now we have, that is the way we saw Ajamila, how much he appreciated. Where is the position of the holy name and what is my position? And Sudama appreciated. Where is the position of Sriniketa and where is my position? I'm a poverty-stricken fellow. And that is how Prahlada appreciated. Where is my position having been born in a demonic family? And what is the position of Krishna? How can I glorify him? So in this way, we have to appreciate the rare opportunity or the privilege which has been conferred on us to chant the holy names or to worship the deities or to touch Srimad Bhagavatam, as we saw. Katha Sudha. So that we have to remember. So this is the first thing. And the second verse is 10:38:4. Yes. So 10:38:4, Akrura feels, since I am a materialistic person, absorbed simply in sense gratification, I think it is as difficult for me to have gotten this opportunity to see Lord Uttama Shloka as it would be for one born a Shudra to be allowed to recite the Vedic mantra. So this is what he thinks. And what is the lesson we derive from this? Move back to the document. Yes. So here we understand that we should be very, very humble and understand that we do not deserve to have this opportunities. First, we appreciate the opportunity and then we realize that I am not fit enough, I'm not qualified enough to get this opportunity. That still Krishna has bestowed upon me this opportunity, just like a Shudra has been given the opportunity to chant the Vedic mantra. So we should become very, very humble. And then the next is 10:38:5. Yes. Here he says, but enough of such thoughts. So let me not become depressed by thinking like this. After all, even a fallen soul like me can have the chance to behold the infallible Supreme Lord, for one of the conditioned souls being swept along in the river of time may sometimes reach the shore. Now, he is giving us the hope. How is it possible for any living entity to get this opportunity? So that is why it says we should not become discouraged, but understand that the mercy of the Lord is the overriding factor, and our qualifications have no value. So if Krishna desires to do something, Krishna wants to bestow something on a living entity, nobody can stop it. And that is why we saw he gives a beautiful example of the Kala Nadya, the waves of time, no, when it takes. So that is why we have two beautiful verses I've taken from Chaitanya Charitamrita, Madhya Leela 22:43 and 22:45, I think, which convey the same meaning. It says, no, संसार भ्रमिते कोने भाग्य के होतारे नदीर प्रवाहे ये न कष्ट लागे तीरे. It says, no, it conveys the same meaning. Nadira pravaha, it says. What is the meaning? It says, just go down. Yes. The conditioned souls are wandering throughout the different planets. Samsara Brahmite. Kona Bhagya Gehetare, it says, and of the universe, entering various species of life. By good fortune, one of these souls may somehow or the other. See the words? Prabhupada writes very beautifully. One of the souls may somehow or the other be delivered from the ocean of nescience, just as one of the many big logs in a flowing river may by chance reach the bank. So very beautifully, the example is also there. Sometimes you can see in Canada and other places, now what they do, they cut the logs. Now for transportation, no, they don't carry along because the road transportation will be very, very costly and very, very difficult or in the go through. So that is why they cut all the logs and put it down the waterfalls or the rivers there. And what they will do, the logs will be carried by the flowing river. And one of them, and then the cause of the flow of the current of the waves, it will reach the bank. And this is what Prabhupada says. And Prabhupada writes, there are unlimited conditioned souls who are bereft of Lord Krishna's service, not knowing how to cross the ocean of nescience. They are scattered by the waves of time and tide. However, some are fortunate to contact, and that is why what is the fortune? Some are fortunate to contact devotees, and by this contact, they are delivered from the ocean of designs, just as a log floating down a river accidentally washes upon the bank. So the good fortune somehow or the other means what? We are fortunate enough to come in contact with the devotee. That is the greatest fortune. And here in Akrura's case also we can see Narada has been an instrumental, if you see, no, because Narada first comes and then he informs the Kamsa that you have to bring Krishna and Balaram here. They are only Krishna is only the eighth child. Everything, no, all the truth, Narada only informs Kamsa. And after Narada, and then Narada gives a suggestion to Akrura. Sorry, Narada gives a suggestion to Kamsa that you don't go and kill Krishna there. You bring Krishna here. So, which means now Narada is indirectly making arrangements for Kamsa to send Akrura to go to Mathura, so Vrindavana. So this is the way, the Narada's mercy, it has come to Akrura in some way or the other. So that mercy has come. So that is why he feels that I should not feel discouraged. When I get the mercy of a devotee, which is possible somehow or the other, then I can get the fortune. Then 22:45 again it says, Kona bhagye kara samsara. Yes, madam. Chayon sadhu sangeta bhe Krishna rati upajaya. It says, by good fortune, one becomes eligible to cross the ocean of nescience, and when one's term of material existence decreases, one may get an opportunity to associate with pure. See the words of Prabhupada. See, when our term of material existence is decreasing, that time only we may get an opportunity to associate with pure devotees. So the moment we get the association of pure devotees, what is the conclusion we can come to? Which means our term of material existence is already decreasing. So by such association, one's attraction to Krishna is awakened. So this is the value of association with the pure devotees, which is the hope against all our hope. So even though we may have hopelessness, but the only hope for all of us is the association of the pure devotees of the Lord. And then we go to the next verse. 10:38:6, Mataji. Yes. Yes. So here he says again, Today, all my sinful reactions have been eradicated. So now he feels very hopeful because of the mercy of a pure devotee. This opportunity of going and meeting Krishna has been bestowed upon me. Today, all my sinful reactions have been eradicated and my birth has become worthwhile since I will offer my obeisances to the Supreme Lord's lotus feet, which mystic yogis meditate upon. So he says, and see the words also, here also we have to observe the words. Because I am going to offer my obeisances to the Lord's lotus feet, what is happening to me? All my sinful reactions have been completely eradicated. So what is the lesson? We go to the document, Mataji. 1038. Yes. Yes. So we have to understand the value of offering obeisances. The moment he says, no, the moment, because I'm going to offer obeisances, he says, all my sinful reactions are completely washed away. So that is what we see. Srimad Bhagavatam, what is the last verse of Srimad Bhagavatam? Nama Sankirtanam Yasya Sarva Papa Pranashanam Pranamo Dukkha Shamanaha Tam Namami Harim Param. So the moment we offer obeisances to the Lord, what is happening? All our sinful reactions are getting destroyed and all our miseries are getting destroyed because we have already putting an end to all our sinful reactions just by offering obeisances to the Lord. In the children's program also, Mahu Mataji was very beautifully explaining how the moment we offer every obeisance, how much spiritual credit is being credited to our account, spiritual account. That is what she was explaining to the children very nicely. So it is very, very important that we offer obeisance to the Lord and to the devotees again and again. And Maharaj says a very beautiful statement. I think it is in Hindi. It says, "Narak kapadan ko darat hai, narak padan ko nahi." Now, maybe those who know Hindi can understand very beautifully. It is a poetic word. Nar means human beings. Kapadan ko darat hai means when we offer obeisances, what will happen? Our dress will get dirty, no? So when we offer obeisances, so people are very much darat, very much afraid that when I offer obeisance, my dress will get, that is why nowadays they ask the children to offer obeisances. No children will offer obeisance, no? So it's very difficult to make them offer namaskaram. So because they are very worried about that, my dress will get spoiled by offering obeisances. Narak kapadan ko darat hai, narak padan ko nahi. But they are not worried that if they don't offer obeisances, what they will do? They will be falling to hell. Narak padan. Narak Kapadan becomes Narak Padan. Maharaj says very beautifully. So that is why the Vishnu Sahasranam also says Mahabharata said Krishna Pranami na punar bhavaya. The person who offers obeisances to Krishna will never be born again. So this is very, very important that we offer obeisance. See, Krishna says very simple things. Now offer a flower. That's what we saw. Take a flower, make a garland, or if you're not able to make a garland, just take the flower from the plant and just offer it to me. And Krishna is very, very happy. The same way is offering obeisances. And there is a very nice story regarding obeisances, which we'll see. It's coming from Padma Puran, where it says that there was a rishi called Mrikandu, and his son was Markandeya. And this Markandeya, we all know, he comes in Bhagavatam also. But this Markandeya story is not happening in the same Kalpa as is mentioned in Bhagavatam. This is another Kalpa, another day of Brahma, where this story happens. So there will be some similarity also, some difference will also be there. So this Mrikandu Maharishi's son, Markandeya, was born, and he was a very, very nice boy. So he had all the good qualities. And he was around 5 years old when he was playing near his ashrama. One of the nice sages came, and this sage saw, and this sage had a vision, to see the future of the child. So he was just observing this child, and he saw that this is a very nice child, but his lifetime is limited to only another 6 months. He could feel that, so he was just standing there and staring at the child. At that time, the child's father, Brikandu, came. And then he asked the stage, welcomed the stage, and said, "Can you give some predictions regarding my son? Can you please tell me what is going to happen, with him, how long he will live, what will he become?" Like that, he asked. And then the sage said that I can read that he has got only 6 more months to live. I have to, anyway, this is the truth, that's why I told you, but don't worry about it. But this is what is written for him. So you take it in the right spirit. That's what the sage told. So this Brikandu Rishi, because he's a great sage, he did not become upset, because when some of us hear this, we will become greatly upset that the child has got only 6 months to live. But this Brikandu Rishi, what he did was immediately he arranged for the Upanayanam. Upanayanam, we know the thread ceremony they do for the Brahmin, so the thread ceremony, he arranged for the thread ceremony so that he can learn he will become eligible to. So whatever little time, let him learn the Vedas and understand about the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Let him recite the Vedas with this intention. the 5-year-old boy was given the Upanayam. And once you do the given the Upanayanam, the boy is given a waist belt and then a danda to hold a rod in his hand, and then he's supposed to offer obeisances and tell nice abhivade and all. No? The child is supposed to tell. So obeisances to all the elders. He's supposed to do that. And then he gave one instruction to the child that now you have been given the Upanayanam. What you should do is anybody you see, anybody a little elder than you, you have to just go and offer obeisances. See anybody and everybody, you please go on offering obeisances. So this was the instruction that was given by the Markandeya's father Mrikandu to Markandeya. And this boy is a very good boy, and then he just listened to the advice of his father. And whomever he saw, he will just fall flat. No Dandavat pranams he will offer. And then when we see somebody falling at our feet, immediately our heart melts, correct? Our heart melts towards the person, and then immediately we want to offer him some benediction. So generally we say, no, Ayushman Baba, Ayushman Baba. Like that, everybody was offering him the benediction, Ayushman Baba, Ayushman Baba. Like that, every day, thousands of obeisances he will do. And one day, what happened? It was around 5, now he became 5 years and 25 days was over. Only 5 more days was left for the child. And at that time, he met the Saptarishis. 7 sages had come there. And immediately, like everybody, he fell at the lotus feet. And then he was telling the Abhivada. The moment they heard, the sages immediately said, Ayushman. And then the moment he got up, the sages saw his face. And because they are Dirgadarshis, because of their knowledge, they could understand that he has got only 5 more days to live. And then they were thinking, no, we said Ayushman Baba, which means our words will become untrue. So they were very really worried about it. And then what they did was they took the child, then they went to the Brahmaloka, Satyaloka they went, because they wanted to ask the authority, Brahmaji, what is happening? How these words of Ayushman Baba came from our mouth and how they were going to become false now like this. They wanted to ask the doubt to Brahma. So, and then immediately the moment he went to Brahmaloka, the moment he met Brahma, again what the boy did, he immediately offered obeisances to Brahmadeva. Brahmadeva didn't see who is there. Somebody offered obeisances and said Abhivade. What did he do? Immediately Ayushman Baba, Brahma also said. And then the sages were wondering. We only told Ayushman Baba before seeing the boy, but Brahmaji is also telling like this, what is happening? And then they spoke to Brahmadeva. And then Brahma asked, why have you come here? Who is this boy? And then they explained that this boy has got only 5 days left. We also tell Ayushman Baba, and you have also told Ayushman Baba what is going to happen. Then Brahma said, yes, according to his what is written for him, it is only some days are left. But since he has come here to Satyaloka, in Satyaloka, no word can prove untrue. That is why it is called Satyaloka. This Loka itself is a world of truth. And now, whatever I have told has to become truth. Now he will have a long life. He will have nice pastimes. He will help me in the creation of the world and all these things. He is going to help me. He is one of the sages like that. So, like that, he was given the benediction. And and we all know Markandeya has got a very long life. There is another story happening in different way in another kalpa, but this is a story which happened in this kalpa, which is mentioned in Padmapura. So just see the value of just falling at the feet of somebody. You are able to receive the blessings from the other living entity. So that is why how much Krishna will feel for the living entity when we fall at his lotus feet again and again. So this is what he said. So and then I think time is already over. So 10:38:7, we will see in the next class of how we should feel grateful to all those who have given us this path of devotional service, whether they have given it in the right way or in the indirect way. So just like Kamsa has given it in the indirect way to Akrura, for him also he is grateful. So we will see nice devotees in Bhagavatam who are feeling very grateful for even though with lot of pain they got this, but they were feeling very thankful to him. So that we will see in the next class.